Dillian, the body snatcher right here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
So a few of you guys have asked me to do a video with my thoughts on this whole WBO and Anthony Joshua situation. Now, if you guys cast your minds back to 2-3 weeks ago, where I did a video reporting the news to you that the WBO had spoken to TalkSport, which is a UK radio sports show, and they said there that they're going to make Anthony Joshua their super champion. In other words, he doesn't have to face a mandatory for 18 months after. This was their words, because they want to relieve the pressure on Joshua going from mandatory to mandatory to mandatory to mandatory. In other words, have a little bit of time to have voluntaries, to unify, all that kind of stuff. And I thought it was great. A lot of people, I remember the comments were saying, see, they're protecting Anthony Joshua. How the hell is that protecting Anthony Joshua? I have no idea. Okay, because that just gave him more time to negotiate with bigger and better fights, I suppose. You know, it depends on how you look at it. But anyway, the WBO, by looks of it, with the articles yesterday, and of course I've seen the videos with Hatman Strikes Back and Dan the Man, and thank you Alejandro for sending me the article originally before these guys made the video, and I didn't have a chance to do it, and I wasn't really going to do a video on this one, but I think it's necessary. So, by all intents and purposes, they've changed their mind. The WBO are saying, actually, after Povetkin, they want their mandatory fulfilled. Now, automatically, you know, I'm seeing Hatman Strikes Back and, you know, his comment section, and people are saying, see, they're protecting Anthony Joshua. But yeah, they're protecting Anthony Joshua when they made him super champion, so he didn't have to face a mandatory. But now they're protecting Anthony Joshua. Some people, you've got a real agenda, you really do. Anyway, so my thoughts are this. So originally, they said, you know what, rather than Joshua have to have a mandatory straight after Povetkin, because Povetkin is a WBA mandatory, okay, that's why this fight is taking place on September 22nd at Wembley. Now, Povetkin is number one with the WBO. They said they're going to just make him the mandatory, so Joshua has two mandatories in one fight, and it relieves some pressure. 18 months later, they will then enforce their mandatory situation. But now they've changed their mind and said that after Povetkin, they're going to look at the next situation. Now the problem is, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing for me, is that they have no mandatory. They've got number one in Alexander Povetkin. After then, number two, Dillian Whyte. Number three, Big Baby Jarrell Miller, and so on. So as of right now, they don't have a mandatory, and I've seen some people saying, well, this is because Eddie Hearn said that he wants Joshua versus Dillian Whyte on April 13th at Wembley. That's why the WBO have done this. The Eddie Hearn has got hold of the WBO and said, you know, let's make Dillian Whyte the mandatory. Dillian Whyte is not the mandatory. Okay, that's the first thing. They applied for a final eliminator between Dillian Whyte and Joseph Parker. The WBO refused. Okay, so they made that fight a international one. Okay, so Dillian Whyte is not mandatory. Okay, and they could enforce Whyte versus Jarrell Miller, which is a fight that you, me, and a lot of people would love to see, right? But will they do it? No idea. As I said before, Joshua, he will fight the best guys around anyway. He doesn't really need a mandatory because he's not like Wilder. Wilder will choose number 15 to number 11. He never ever chooses a number 10 outside of Luis Ortiz. Okay, so it's a bit of a strange one for me. I don't quite know how to react to it. But Dillian Whyte is not the mandatory. Okay, so anybody who says that this is some kind of snake plan from Eddie Hearn to make Joshua versus Dillian Whyte. Joshua versus Dillian Whyte going to happen anyway. Whether Dillian Whyte is a mandatory for any of his belts. This fight is going to happen at some point anyway. It's a rematch that both these guys want and the fans want, which is most important. So, no, that's not the case at all. But don't forget, those who are saying that this is a good way for Joshua to avoid Wilder, unification takes precedence over a mandatory, okay? It doesn't have to. The governing body can refuse it, but they don't usually, right? So any fight between him and Wilder for Undisputed, or potentially Tyson Fury, hey, you know what, you never know. That's not going to get in the way. It's not going to get in the way. Wilder has a contract. If he was to beat Fury, and if Anthony Joshua was to be successful over Alexander Povetkin, he has a contract to come to Wembley April 13th and take on Joshua for Undisputed. He has this option. So, no mandatory is going to get in the way. All Whyte has to do is sign, everybody's happy, okay? Or negotiate again, whatever you've got to do. I really don't care anymore. But no, this is not a protection thing from the WBO. I don't quite understand why the WBO said they're going to make Joshua the super champion, and then 2-3 weeks later they changed their mind. I don't get it, to be honest. I don't understand their thinking. They haven't been very clear on this, especially as I've said, they don't really know what they're going to do about making a mandatory. Are they going to order a final eliminator? They haven't clarified anything. So as of right now, we don't know. And ultimately, it makes no difference. No difference whatsoever. Joshua's going to have to face a top guy anyway. It's what he does. And then after then, it'll be the IBF. I mean, these are the kind of short straws, I suppose, about being a unified champion. The fact that you do have mandatories enforced on you. But when there's another champion out there, that can supersede all of it. So it's no big deal, really. If the fans want Joshua versus Wilder, and if both fighters want that fight, and all their management team and everybody else around them, then the fight will happen. It's very simple. In the WBO, they can order Dillian Whyte versus Jaron Miller, but again, they're unlikely to do that because Jaron Miller is fighting on October the 6th. He's not going to fight October the 6th and then fight Dillian Whyte straight after within a few weeks. That's not really going to happen, is it? So anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens. So that's my thoughts. You drop me yours, click that thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.